You know what? I'm not going to lie. I didn't want to come on here. I didn't want to make a video. I didn't want to show up for myself. I hear all these voices in my head that are saying, you got to do this, you got to do this. And it needles me about, oh, how you have to show up. You have to show up for you. You have to show up for you. And sometimes I don't want to show up. Sometimes I don't want to show up. Because sometimes showing up is hard. Sometimes showing up really sucks. But what I've found so many times is that when I do show up, God shows up. What does God showing up mean? What does that mean? That sounds so woo-woo. It sounds so silly. I just turned 31 a couple days ago. And I had a beautiful time. I really had a beautiful, beautiful birthday. I'm so beyond grateful to have incredible friends and mentors and being in a beautiful place that uplifts me and nourishes me. And I would not be the man that I am today if it wasn't for this beautiful place and this beautiful community. And being here taught me what it meant to show up. And a lot of people that are watching this video have probably heard of this idea of you have to show up. And you probably maybe even heard of the expression, if you show up and God shows up. But I didn't really know what that meant. And on the morning of my birthday, my sensei gave me a very powerful speech that I've been mulling over for these past number of days. And I'm like, I want to make a video on it, but I don't really know what to say, blah, 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 blah. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to show up and it's going to show up for me. So here it is. My sensei told me that when he first met me, he saw a man that was so in his head, was very mental about his process, that had no grounding, that had no sense of direction, that had no foundation. And he had told me that before, but I didn't really know what it meant. What does that mean? What does it mean to have a foundation? What does it mean to show up for you? And I thought this foundation. And as I deepened in my martial arts practice, I practiced these moves over and over and over and over again. So boring. The repetition was so boring, over and over and over again. Why do I have to do this over and over and over again? And as I did these things over and over and over again, I realized that the foundation was in the basics. The basics. Punching, kicking, punching, kicking, punching, kicking. It's all the same thing. But every little detail in those punches and those kicks is what creates the excellence. It's what creates the foundation. Is your wrist like this, or is it like this? Is it like this, or like this, or your fingers flat, or are they kind of crooked or turned or whatever? Every little detail, every little nuance makes up the embodiment of that martial art. And to some people that are listening to this, they might be like, oh my God, that is so boring. I'd rather chew on tinfoil. But something really clicked in me, and I learned to love the boring stuff. Because what I considered the boring things was doing the same thing over and over and over again, was developing a love for the very detailed nuances. I'm like, oh, my toe's not this way. Oh, my foot's a little more in this degree, a little more in that angle. And I noticed all the little details, all the polishing, the polishing, the polishing, the polishing, the polishing. And this loving of the polishing is what turned me into loving this art. The art, the practice, the foundation. And I noticed that as I began to move energy through my explosiveness of my punches or my kicks or my choreographies, or what are called katas in Japanese, I started to find the flow of God working through me. It was teaching me to get out of my own way. And as I moved this energy, and I felt this explosiveness, and I felt this power moving through me so gracefully and so effortlessly, it helped me realize that outside of the dojo was life. And most people don't know this, but dojo actually means the way of life. The dojo teaches you how to be in the world. And as I learned how to be in my own body and how to get out of my own way and exploring the foundation and exploring the structure, I fell in love with life. I fell in love with how I showed up in the world. And that was the foundation. And my sensei said something to me. He said, Don, as you show up more and more, and I'm seeing it in your energy, I'm seeing it in your conviction, I'm seeing it in myself of how I show up on my videos, I'm seeing it in myself of how I show up in my relationships and my work and my discipline. I see that I'm allowing God to show up for me, that I don't have to figure this out, that I don't have to make it hard, that by deepening in the foundation, you're not actually deepening in something that you're doing. The foundation is deepening your relationship to God, to this energy that's outside of you. That's not this anthropomorphic kind of being. It's this cosmic, universal, graceful flow that only ever wants to give you grace, that only ever wants to give you love, that only ever wants to show you your most excellent self, when you can just get out of your own way. And that when you understand how to talk, how to set up some lights, how to set up a camera, how to get into your heart, yada, 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 that's the technical stuff that you have to do. But when you get out of your own way and you let God speak through you, it's so easy. Even now as I'm talking, I'm like, wow, this is really, really easy. Don's not saying any of these things. So again, it's not about me. It's about stepping out of the way to let God work through you to make your life easier. That's the foundation. And as I explored this idea of foundation, I realized that not only is it foundation, but it's your purpose. Your purpose, as I say in a lot of my videos, is to be needed. But how do you become needed? Well, you become needed by being valuable. And how do you become valuable? You become valuable by tapping into the source of inexhaustible love, an inexhaustible creation, and an inexhaustible energy that just wants to express its most grandest, beautiful, awesome expression of you through you. In everything you do, in the way in which you communicate, in the way in which you show up for exercising or for work or everything, that is God moving through you. That is your devotion to this spirit that loves you inexhaustibly, completely outside of a religious framework or perspective or anything. If you just tap into the energy of what I'm trying to transmit to you, you'll feel it in you. You'll feel it in your work. You'll feel it in the passions that you have in your life. That when you're tapped in to that source, you're living your purpose. Your purpose is to deepen in the foundation of your relationship to that spirit that is constantly interfacing with you. All you got to do is get out of the way. And my sensei said, Don, you're giving yourself the tools that you were never given. You're giving yourself the tools that you were never given. And that really hit me. Because it made me think about my dad. And my dad passed away about 2 years ago. And if you ever think about what a father's supposed to be for you, you get a lot of ideas. And I love my dad, very much so. I love what my father did, the gifts that he gave to me. He was there for some of the hardest times in my life where I felt like such a broken man. When I collapsed on the floor, being so upset about my life crumbling in front of me, my dad was there. And what I realized about my dad was that he wasn't given the tools either himself. And even though he loved his dad didn't know that either. He didn't know the foundation. He didn't know the spirit. He didn't know the heart. He didn't have the charisma. He had the charisma, but he didn't have that deep, amorphous, untouchable, intangible sense of what it meant to be a man. He kind of got it. And when I read my dad's obituary, I was overwhelmed with how beautiful the impact that my dad made on those other people. But my dad was so disconnected from himself that he could only show up the way that he knew he was supposed to be in his work, because he was valued for how he showed up in his work. He wasn't valued for how he showed up in any other time in his life, which makes me sad. And now I'm clear on what I wish I could have recognized in my dad before he was gone. And so I think about this foundation that my dad never gave to me, that energy transfer that he never gave to me, that powerful conviction, that powerful rooting in God. Because I look around and I see so many men, and what are they rooted in? They're rooted in their bank accounts. They're rooted in their status. They're rooted in their house. They're rooted in their title. That was what my dad was rooted in. And I'm not hating on my dad. I love my dad. But if you think about it, you probably watching this and you ask about what your dad is rooted in, he's probably rooted in very similar things. The foundation. His foundation was temporary. His foundation was based on his own works. And so many men don't know that their purpose, that their foundation is to be rooted in the Spirit that works through you. The Spirit of Christ, the Spirit of love, the Spirit of truth, the Spirit of consciousness. That is your rock because it's you. If you just get out of your own way. And I work with so many successful men, and they are so stressed. They're so pissed off. They're so angry. They're so lost. They're chasing after all of these things outside of themselves that aren't their root, that aren't their foundation. And they think if I just focus on the end result, and I just do, and I keep the end result as the end goal, as the reason why I'm doing this, then I'll get there. And then they get there, and they get the car, and they get the woman, and they get the money, and they're still empty because they don't have the foundation. They don't have the root. They don't know their purpose. Their purpose is not their job. Their purpose is not their car. Their purpose is not their woman. Their purpose is not their family. Their purpose is God through you. That's why you're here. That is your foundation. And when you live this every day, when you show up, even if you don't want to show up, guess who shows up? God shows up. And in that, it reminds you about how full you actually are. When I got on this camera, I wasn't feeling full, but do I feel full now? I feel the conviction. When you show up and you let God work through you, that's when the conviction comes. Guys, that's when the conviction comes. And the men that really want to show up with excellence and conviction, that are still on the shit pile, that are still jerking off, that are still doing these things, they're still doing these silly things, they're wasting their time, it's because they don't remember. They don't remember the simple truth that you don't have to do it by yourself. That it becomes so much easier when you get out of your own way and you let God work through you. You let the Spirit talk through you. You let the Spirit inspire you. You let the muse open your heart to the creative expression that God wants to give through you. And when you get this, all the other stuff that you want, all the other stuff that you're seeking right now, will come to you. But all you want to do is explore God. My sensei told me, he said, Don, maybe you're the exception. I don't want to teach karate anymore. He said he's interested in the energy. He's like, I only care about the energy. the energy of the movements, the energy of the explosiveness, the energy of the creative space, that once you understand the technical foundation, the way you move your body, the way you shift your hips, the way you snap your hips, the way you move your hands, blah, 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 blah. Once you have that foundation, that's when you can explore the energy. And he said, I'm only interested in exploring that energy. So get the foundation. Part of your purpose is to get the foundation. Figure out what you're good at. Figure out what you like. Figure out your natural proclivities. And when you get that foundation of the technical stuff, deepen in the real foundation, which is your relationship to this higher power that wants to give through you. It wants to give through you. And so many men that I talk to, they don't have that spark. They don't have that glow. They don't have that light. Because they've not been given the tools. And guys, this is the tool. This is the tool. And you might not know how to do it yet. There might be a couple things holding you back. A lot of the guys that I work with have been doing a lot of amazing things. Guys in their 30s and late 20s and 40s, and they've been crushing it in life. And they're so close. They're so close. But they don't remember that this is why they're here. This is what it means to be a man. This. And what I want to do, my purpose, is to remind you of that. And I found it in me. And I see it in every man that I talk to. And it's sad that they don't see it in themselves. And in a funny way, it's kind of selfish for me to give, because I realize that the more people that are in true abundance within this deep foundation, deeply in their purpose, make the world a better place. And if the world is a better place, my life becomes better. So it's kind of selfish in a way. And I want to show this to you. I want you to feel that love, that divine conviction that I feel. Even when I don't feel it, I'm like, okay, I just got to show up and get out of my own way, and then it comes. And when you find that divine conviction in every little thing you do, maybe it's that one little bad habit that you have about, hey, maybe you're peeking a little too much about, those naughty pictures. Or maybe you're swiping a little too much on those dating apps. Or maybe you're taking a little too much sugar. Or maybe you're taking one too many drinks. Or maybe you're watching a little too much Netflix. Those little vices that hook you down, that feel insignificant, are really actually pretty significant. And remembering to go back to this energy, remembering to go back to this foundation, remembering that this foundation is your purpose, will get you in alignment with your highest good. And if you're still struggling with this, I want to show you how to do that. I love this. I love helping others find it in them because it's so beautiful. It's so powerful. You meet so many beautiful people that love and care about you and support you and want to give. And that's your birthright. That's your birthright. That's why you're here. Life becomes so much easier when you get that. And I want to help you get that. Because when you get it, it will all be clear. And when you get it, you won't doubt anymore. When you get it, you won't fear anymore. When you get it, you won't live in scarcity. When you get it, you won't chase. When you get it, you won't worry. When you get it, you won't fear. When you're tapped in to that foundation, everything will come to you. And when it's there for you, the conclusion that you arrive at is, all I want to do is explore this space of God in me and with me. All I want to do is deepen in this foundation all I want to do is deepen in this excellence. It's all synonymous. Excellence, purpose, mastery, foundation, mission, relationship to God. It's all the same thing. But it's just said in different ways. So I invite you to discover that with me, in you. Because when you find that, everything will work out just fine.